Welcome to the CLI and ALPMA Innovation and Legal Tech Week 2021 on-demand program. This session is Tech Talks, and we're focusing on some legal practitioners who are going to tell us about tech tools that have changed their legal world. Hi, Cara. Thanks for coming along to talk to us about how you use video tools to communicate with your clients and team members. I might just start by getting you to introduce yourself and describe what sort of practice you have.
Sure. I'm Cara Austen. I still call myself an in-house lawyer, even though it's been a couple of years since I've been in-house. But for the majority of my career, I was in-house, and most recently in an APAC GC role. And really, what I am as a corporate commercial lawyer. And I've decided to strike out on my own. I have probably about 4 people on staff, and although it's a flexible number because that's how I staff the team, and I run a general corporate and commercial practice, but providing a fairly highly tailored bespoke service to a select group of companies.
Great. And so just tell us a little bit about a tech tool that you use and that you love.
I've been using Loom, which is a video recording and screen recording tool. So I've been using that probably 12 months now, nearly as long as I've been running the firm. And I introduced it as a way to communicate with clients because I'm used to being able to see people face to face or just get on a video conference. But I was finding time to schedule that when I've got a number of different clients and their competing deadlines and then my life and everything was really difficult. And I was concerned about messages being lost in email. And I think my concern is, having been on the receiving end of many a lawyer's emails, sometimes the full meaning or the gravity of the situation doesn't come through in the way that is intended. And so I've adopted Loom pretty much. I do use email still for general communication, but when I'm talking clients through documents, as we do a lot of contracts, when I'm talking them through documents or even, shareholders agreements, that kind of thing, I tend to use Loom to talk them through on a line-by-line basis.
So just so that if people aren't familiar with Loom, just talk us through what that actually looks like, first from your end and then from the client's end.
So from my end, it's probably easiest if I talk through what I do. I pull up a document on my screen. I then log into the Loom app. I hit record. I choose how I want it to appear, and I use a small circle at the bottom left hand of the screen, and I scroll through the document as I talk people through it, and it records the screen.
They can see your face in that small circle.
Yes. And I have a rather emotive face, so it helps to communicate with clients, and I was finding that was being lost a lot in email. And so this I've had such amazing feedback as well from clients who just feel like, I think they just feel a level of closeness with me as their legal advisor that they wouldn't feel otherwise.
So once you've recorded it, do you just send that as an email?
It gets sent as a link. So it lives on Loom, but it gets sent as a link, and they can then watch it. They can download it, which I really like, and I can download it into my file and save it into my file as well.
Yeah. And so are you finding that's helpful when say you've got a new client that you haven't actually been able to meet in person?
Yes. So I haven't met many of my clients in person. I mean, thank you, coronavirus. Yes. But also because I run a national practice from Grafton in northern New South Wales, and I don't want to travel, but I still want to be close to my clients, and I want to be able to have that personal interaction. So what I've also been doing is I've been using it when I quote. Right. So I've started using it when I quote, and I'm finding that the feedback from a quoting perspective is really positive as well.
So are you talking through the process you've been thinking about to sort of explain that quote?
Yeah, I do fixed price work. Yeah. I don't have any hourly work on. I have the occasional client that insists on it, but I tend not to work with those clients. So I do fixed price work, which means that there is sometimes it's a big number, and clients can have sticker shock because they don't understand upfront what is actually required. And for me to sit there and write, a 12-page explanation, I may as well have done the work, to be honest. Yeah. So talking them through it and explaining just, what has to happen. I mean, I have it in summary form written in the quote, but talking them through it, explaining why it is going to cost what it's going to cost, just helps them to understand, because it's not just, typewritten words on a blank piece of paper. Yeah. And it's the conversation you could have on phone or in person, but you're able to record it at a time that suits you and send that through, and they can watch it at a time that suits them. Exactly. And what it does is it puts them in a position where they're educated to then have the next conversation with me. Yeah. So it's not a way of avoiding conversations, but it does speed up the thinking process from a client perspective, because they feel like they know what's going on before they're heading in to a discussion. So the longest Loom I've done is 52 minutes. Oh, wow. Yeah. It was a monster, but the document was also a monster, and the clients were fantastic, but needed quite a detailed level of explanation. But then they also had the time to digest that and watch it again, sit down together, because there's two of them, and really talk it through, stop me, have all those things, do all those things that it's just rude to do. If the lawyer's sitting there with you, they could do that. They could have those conversations, and then they could come to me and we could have a really efficient conversation to finish that document up and send it back to them. That is interesting, because sometimes you do find you have to say things quite a few times where they're complicated concepts, and they could have watched you say it 3 times, got their head around it. Yes. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Well, I think that's really great. Thank you so much for sharing. I think it's a really useful tool that a lot of businesses could cope with or incorporate. Yes. Have you got any tips on how you found it, or places that where you're looking to find handy tools like this? I find nearly all of my tips, all of them, let's be entirely honest, in the club, in the Happy Lawyer, Happy Life Club. So Fiona, you're a member as well. And I get a lot of tips from you, and thank you very much for that. But also, we are a bunch of lawyers, some of whom are really interested in trying new things, and we are quite open and generous with sharing about how that goes and whether it works or not. But also I am one of those people who just try stuff, and if it doesn't work, and I move right on. So maybe not your standard very conservative kind of person when I approach technology or new ways of doing things. I'm fairly relaxed when it comes to, we'll try it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I don't really I care about what people think, but I know that it's not going to break a relationship. I'm not doing that kind of stuff. So if I tried something like Loom and it hadn't worked, and clients were like, that's terrible, make it go away. And when I started, I actually had some feedback from clients saying, you need to do this, you need to do that. So I took that feedback on board and I incorporated it. And that was quite helpful. And I think if you're open with clients that you're trying new things, they're more than happy to provide feedback. And tell you if it works for them or not. Yeah. Great. Well, thanks very much, Cara. Thanks, Fiona. It's lovely chatting with you. We're going to introduce Emma Houston. Emma, where are you from?
Hi, I'm Emma Houston from The Remote Expert. I run a virtual law firm which helps women with online businesses get online, have a team of 4 people, and we are virtual, although I'm based in Ballina in far northern New South Wales.
And so tell us about a bit of tech that you love using in your practice.
So I love all sorts of tech, but the one in particular I'm going to chat about today is Canva. And that's because I help people with online businesses. So my clients are online, which means that I have to sort of cut through the noise and get in touch with where they hang out online. And I do that by using Canva for social media, also PDF downloads on my website, things like that. It helps me create individual looking graphics for social media posts. And there's a bit of a tip in that, and I have a blog over on my website about Canva licenses. So if you use the Canva graphics, you do just have to be careful that you don't on-sell them anywhere, but they are, if you've got the right license, they're right for use on your own pages. But I've actually had a graphic designer create a whole range of sort of characters and pictures, which I then use, I drag into Canva and use to create a really unique look. And this has been really great to just reach my ideal client and to make me stand out, because I think as lawyers we can all look really similar online. And we can also say, oh, social media, we'll get the youngest person in the office to do it because we don't understand it. And I really like keeping control of my social media, because for me, that's where most of my business comes from. So it makes sense for me to make sure it's really authentically me.
Well, I've really admired your social media, and like you say, that distinctive, you really do have a bright and a vibrant presence on social media, and it looks a bit different. You can tell it's you, it's the remote expert, it's you really are, I think, achieving those goals. So I'm interested that you were able to do that by bringing a bit of an expertise in to help you set up those templates and get the bits that you needed to be able to then send your message and do your creative part, but with some good tools, so that you come up with a slightly better, I think you come up with a better than average presence on social media. So I think it's really clever.
Well, that's great to know.
And so just for people who've never used Canva, just quickly, what did you find? Just give them a quick example of how you could use it.
So it is really easy. And if you're starting out, there are templates on there that you can use. You've got free Canva to start with. So if you want to try it out, I'd go with the free option at first. You get less graphics and less choice, but I think if you're just trying it out, it's easy. But a lot of it is drag and drop and looking at templates. So it's sort of taken graphic design away from Adobe Pro or those really complicated things to use and made it a bit more accessible. You've then, if you use templates that everyone else is using, you do run the risk of looking the same. But I think for getting used to it and working out a brand palette, and that would be my other tip, to have your brand colours and your designer colours with hexes and colour palettes and things you want to use there, and having a couple of templates you set up for your own firm. So not necessarily Canva templates, but templates you've created for how you will have, say, a testimonial post or a quote. And you don't just want to be sharing other people's stuff on your social media. It's okay sometimes, but all the time you really want that personal brand to come through.
Yeah, that having that brand style kit is really so useful when you're just sort of trying to get this done on the side of your real job. It just takes away some of those thinking bits, doesn't it? You can just go, I need a testimonial, here's my template, and it'll look right. And
you can outsource it to someone else in your office. So if you've already got that and say, well, I need this as a testimonial, then you can ask someone else in your office to do that, and you know that it's right. Yeah. So having that framework there is really important.
Yeah. And so how did you get started with Canva? How did you find that?
I heard people talking about it a lot, and I thought, I'll give this a go. And it becomes quickly addictive, especially the background remover, which I love. So in photos, you can remove the background and pop yourself in front of any background, which is handy. I heard other people just talking about it, other lawyers, other professionals.
Yeah.
And then I just started playing around with it in the evenings.
Great.
And creating things. I sort of started it when I launched my book, The Tracksuit Economy.
Yeah.
And then by the time I launched the Remote Expert Mode business, it was really well and truly, I knew a little bit more about it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks very much, Emma. Hi, Ella. Thanks for coming along to talk to us about Contract Probe. We might just get started if you could tell us a bit about who you are and where you work.
Sure, yes. My name is Ella Cannon. I work at Hive Legal, which is a very busy boutique firm in Melbourne. And I have a commercial and regulatory practice with a particular focus on digital health, technology and privacy.
Mm-hmm.
And I work in a team of about 25 people.
Okay. And so tell us, why do you like using Contract Probe?
Well, I guess at Hive, we really value the role legal tech plays within our firm. It's kind of part of our DNA, and so we do use many different types of tech, but Contract Probe is a particular favourite of mine and many others at the firm. We find it really does play a big role in kind of streamlining our document review process.
And so if somebody hasn't used it before, just give us how does it work? What do you use it for?
Yeah, sure. It's so easy to use. It's basically a cloud-based system, so you just do it via your browser. You don't have to download any kind of programs or software. And what it does is it's an automated document review system that uses AI. So you basically upload your agreement to the cloud-based program and you just select what type of agreement it is, assuming it is one that Contract Probe can review. They're generally commercial agreements. And you tick which perspective you want it reviewed from. So if it's a supply agreement, you might pick you're the customer or the supplier. And then it spits out a report very quickly within a minute, which highlights any key issues in its view, and it is AI, but key issues that it thinks the agreement might have. So they could be as simple as drafting errors if you've missed a defined term, or they might be issues like, there's no liability clause. So normally a contract like this would have a liability clause, and here's an example. So it's quite exhaustive, the review. It does use AI, so of course it doesn't have the human touch and it can make mistakes, but it has been amazing to see how it's grown over the past few years that we've been using it and how clever the tool is becoming. It really gets better and better the more we use it.
And so how long did you find that it took till it sort of got trained up to get used to the way that you like to work at Hive?
It was useful from the beginning. We have been using it for a few years, and I think it was pretty early in its inception in Australia. I could be wrong about that, but it was useful from the beginning. But certainly over regularly and over those few years, it has continued to improve, and it's produced more functionalities that a lot of those functionalities I don't personally use as often as the basic document review system, which I just find really helpful. But it has the company really take on board feedback. They really value that because they can then use that to train the tool to learn from its mistakes. And absolutely, we've seen big changes over those 3 years.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing in itself. If we want to have good tools, we've got to work with the people who are making these tools and help them to get better so that everybody can benefit.
Yeah, that's right, especially with AI, because AI is only what the humans tell it to be. So if we don't tell it what it needs to know, it can't produce the outcomes we want. Yeah.
And so what are you finding it would save? It's sort of doing that first review that you might otherwise have got sort of a junior member of your team to do? Is that the sort of...
Yeah, that's right. I guess, there's a few different purposes, and one is certainly cutting down that kind of burdensome, time-consuming job that we would ordinarily have juniors do, but also at senior levels we do that at Hive too. It's kind of the way we work. Yeah. I guess lots of us at Hive use it in different ways. There are a few different functionalities, but for me it's really a safety net to make sure I can provide a more efficient review work for my clients. Yeah. It gives me the comfort that I haven't missed a defined term. I haven't not dotted my I's or crossed my T's or missed some important clause. It just gives that level of security that, you know, someone else has cast their eyes over it, and in a very efficient way. So it means less time spent reviewing things like the use of defined terms and more time spent looking at the more high value work that we as, you know, trained legal practitioners and not computers can do.
And also, by the time you've been working on a document and it's 10 o'clock at night, and your ability to see those sorts of problems is just vastly diminished, whereas the computer is fresh as a daisy and it's always going to find those problems.
That's right. It doesn't get tired. Yeah. And, you know, I'd love to say that I have never missed a defined term, but that is not true. And I think we can see with tools like Contract Probe that it has that such a stronger capacity than we as humans have to pick up those tiny little details that can be quite significant.
Yeah. Well, and I'm asking people how they found out about this tool. Do you remember how you?
Yeah, sure. It wasn't me personally. I can't take credit for it, but I guess a couple of our principals at Hive met Michael Patterson, who was one of the founders of Contract Probe, and they had a demo a few years ago. So I think they met him, and I could be wrong about this as well, but I think they met him at, you know, kind of a legal tech exhibit. They were really impressed with it from the start, from the demo. They saw that it had some learnings, but they saw the potential at that demo and thought, yeah, we want to use this. We want to see how it goes. It's very much fits in with how we want to be working at Hive. Yeah. So we, got that demo, turned it into a trial straight away, and we've really used it ever since. And we've been really impressed by how clever it is getting and how much it can transform that kind of clunky, late review and proofing.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for sharing that with us all. That's really helpful.
No problems. Thanks for having me.
Hi, James. Thanks for joining us. I want to hear from you about how you're using Hubspot in your practice, but maybe if you could just start by telling us who you are and what sort of practice you have.
Sure, Fiona, thank you. My name's James Muscat, and I'm the Principal Lawyer and Director of Dynamic Lawyers located in Essendon North. Our firm is a general practice suburban firm. We're firmly grounded in family law, wills and estates, migration, property and commercial law.
Great. And so just tell us a bit about what Hubspot is and how you use it.
Sure. So in our practice, we love using Hubspot, in particular because it's useful for keeping records of potential leads and our clients, useful for segmenting our leads and clients, very useful for tracking emails and see how often our clients or leads open them. Useful for sending out email sequences to nurture potential clients and leads. We use it for setting up snippets of regularly used content to send it in emails, which saves us a lot of time. It's also a great place for keeping notes, records, and for setting reminders for follow-up of items for any members of the team. And also it's very useful for making telephone calls, which can also be recorded if you've got client consent. So very useful for all of that. So we love using Hubspot particularly because it's like a complete all-encompassing centralized practice management software system. It's very easy to use, very powerful, and there's also great support from the Hubspot team who are there when you need their assistance.
And so do you use this instead of a legal practice management system or alongside? We
use it alongside. We do use Leap, but I do love Hubspot because it's a great place initially for, instead of creating a file in Leap, we can use that to sort of monitor sort of leads before they turn into clients. But then we sort of run it alongside Leap as well, because it's a great place. If I'm talking to a client on the phone, for example, I can take notes into Hubspot and then convert that into a file note and quickly save that into Leap. So we use it alongside it, but it could very easily be a practice management software on its own, really. It's that good.
And so HubSpot's a CRM or a client relationship management software. Are you finding you've had an increase in conversion rates from having a system designed to track those sort of leads and conversions?
Look, to some, we haven't tracked it a lot, but we do notice, with the sequences and things like that, now that we're starting to use that, we're getting client engagement, and what's quite useful is it lets us know when a party opens an email, and we can track all of that, and even say a party on the other side, we can see when they've looked at an email. So it's often a really good reminder to sort of, oh, we better do this or we better do that. So yeah, it sort of just does so much. It's such a powerful piece of software that has really, enhanced our practice.
It's interesting. I'd only ever thought of using it in that marketing perspective. So tracking whether somebody had opened a proposal or a piece of marketing content that you might have, a checklist or some sort of helpful guide you might be using in your advertising, but you're actually using it to track steps along through the matter.
Yeah, that's right. And it is very useful for that, because I can tell basically when someone opens an email to look at it, or if they're actively doing something that we've asked them to do, or they're not doing something. So yeah, it becomes quite a useful way of kind of knowing what client behavior is like, or if you like. So it's quite good. Yeah.
And then those, when you say you're saving snippets of text in there, that's not just marketing collateral, that's also part of your practice, frequently asked questions or sort of frequently used content.
Oh, definitely, yes. Yeah, like the snippets are really good for that, because the frequently used content is you basically just type that up in your list, and then when you write an email, you just pick which ones you want to put in that email, and they get just added with a click. So it's, it basically has lots of the regularly used content all done up. You can use it. Yeah, you can add things like guides or lead magnets and things like that you've created for potential leads, as well, and send them from there. So it just, you can raise invoices from there. It just basically does absolutely everything. It connects with things like DocuSign and things like that as well. So it has a lot of integrations with other software, including text messaging and things like that. So it's absolutely brilliant.
So you could set up a sequence to prompt people to sign a cost agreement or stuff by sending them a text message to say, I've sent that through. Can you sign it and get it back to me so we can get started?
Oh, definitely, yeah. So we often do that as well now. Whenever we send correspondence, we'll send a text message as well to just remind clients, for those ones that don't necessarily look at their email every day.
Yeah.
We'll quickly send a snippet that that says, we've sent you correspondence. Please have a look at it. So yeah, it's just great. We really find it really useful.
And do clients like that, or do they complain that you're sending them too many messages?
No, I think most clients appreciate getting it's not too regular. So it's just when we need to really send out correspondence to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's been good for them as well.
Yeah, no, there is nothing worse than when somebody chases you up and an email's been sitting in a box for 3 workdays and they haven't looked at their email and you're frustrated, and then it's all urgent. So
yes,
that'd be really useful.
Definitely.
And so how did you come to find Hubspot?
We found it actually I had a student who was doing their PLT placement with me, and she had worked in a role where she was managing practices and other types of practices, and she'd experienced using CRM.
Yeah.
And she sort of set it up for me and got me into it, and yeah, we've loved it ever since. It's been really great. And we did the onboarding training through HubSpot, and that was really useful because we got to learn how to use it properly, and that was sort of 6 1-hour appointments with HubSpot to get the most out of it.
Well, that's great.
So that was really good, because it meant that you had that one-on-one guide, so you could basically really set it up as you needed it. And it's just got so much in the way of customization in there as well. So it is really, really great.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much for sharing all of that. Okay, thanks for joining me, Clarissa. I'm really excited to talk to you about a tech tool that you use that helps work paperless and handle lots of documents. But can we just start? Could you just tell us who you are and what sort of practice you have?
Certainly. So my name is Clarissa Rayward. I am a divorce lawyer by day, and I run a small practice up here in Brisbane called Brisbane Family Law Centre. So we're a team of, I was trying to remember last night when I was reviewing your questions, Fiona, I think we're 12 or maybe 13. I'm not entirely certain, but a small group and just do family law work.
And so tell us a bit about how you use Bundledocs.
Yeah, so Bundledocs I fell upon, I'm pretty sure thanks to you actually, Fiona. And it's a product that I have come to really love because it enables you to do exactly what it says on the tin, bundle your documents. And I'm no tech whiz. And what I do love about this program is it's really simple to use. So it enables us to pull together all sorts of different documents, put them into a nice integrated, well-organized PDF with an index. I'm sure it does things that I don't even know because I just use the sort of basic part of it to literally do that. But I found it so helpful this year. I do a lot of work as what's called an independent children's lawyer, so acting for kids in the family court process. And in that role, we tend to become the organisers of a case, particularly as it gets close to trial. And the ICL, as we're called, is often tasked by the court in putting together bundles of subpoena material or, gathering information. And I have found this tool so helpful that, particularly this year, I guess, with everything being online and hearings being online. But prior to this year, just in being able to organise my documents and present them in a way that I think is easy for the person who's trying to use them, but easy for us as well then to find things.
Yeah. And just for somebody who isn't familiar with the product at all, can you just tell us a little bit about how it works?
I'm probably the worst person. From my perspective, I log in and I can create a new bundle, and there's a simple button at the top where you go create new bundle. And then it invites you to create sections. And so you'll create a section and you'll title it whatever you want. And then you just drag and drop in whatever you might be dragging and dropping. And ultimately, if you don't like where it is, you move it or you delete it or you change it or whatever it might be. So you can assemble all of these things, and then you can, with the click of a button, say to Bundledocs, all right, I'm ready to download that and convert it into some other format or whatever it might be. And I think it's the interactive PDF thing that particularly I find so helpful in litigation, so that you've got an index where you can click on, document 100.4 and it takes you straight to it, which is a game changer in terms of speed and organisation. And, particularly if you're in the midst of cross-examination and you've got counsel sitting next to you and you're trying to find something, it's so helpful to be able to go, doing, there you go. That pace is really handy.
The old days of reaching into the folder behind you and which folder. and
I know it's here somewhere.
Yeah. I think the thing I really appreciate about Bundledocs too is it's got that sort of little view option. So if you want to check is this the right document am I looking at, or because you can have a lot of files that have similar names. And so being able to just see a little quick snapshot of that document, check it is the one you meant, is actually really handy. And I think Bundledocs has a good solution for that. And I think the other thing that I liked about it too is you can integrate it with lots of different document management systems. So if we were using it with NetDocs, but if you were using it with Box or OneDrive, just wherever your sort of repository of documents are, you can just have this nice interface.
And I can see that the integrations are increasing. I think I said this to you the other day. I can see that now they're seamlessly integrating with quite a few of the leading practice management software tools. And so I'm now going to be sort of harassing them to try and get them to integrate with more and more of those, because again, that's so helpful when all of the pieces that you're using link together. But they've certainly managed to make that shift from what I can see in the last 12 months as well.
And it's a really great example of getting a really best-in-class document builder and then building that out to integrate with other really good products, rather than so you end up with a good end-to-end solution from having lots of best bits stitched together.
Yeah.
Great. Well, look, thanks very much, Clarissa. That's been really helpful.
That's okay.
Hi, Despina. Thanks for joining me. I'm really interested to talk to you a little bit about an e-discovery tool that you like using. But do you want to just start by introducing yourself and just telling people where you practice?
Sure. My name's Despina Anagnostou. I'm a commercial lawyer. I work in a mixture of commercial transactional areas. So, I set up companies and trusts, and I do terms and conditions for my clients and, review their contracts and draft new ones. And then when things get messy every now and again, I sort their disputes out. And so that's, I think, what you wanted to talk to me about today, didn't you? How I've been using Logical, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Can you just tell us a little bit about what Logical does?
Sure. So it's a document management system, and it's for litigators. So what for the basics are, you load all of your documents into it, and you can load all of the discovery that you get from the other side into it. And then you can sort the documents, so you can tag them with different things that are important to you. You might want to tag them by witnesses. You can tag them by subject areas, and then you can locate documents easily. Probably I should say at the beginning what you would do is use it for your own discovery. So the first thing you would do is load all of your documents into it, and then you would just tag them, privileged, not privileged, question mark on it, relevant, not relevant. And then with all the ones that were relevant and not privileged, you would load them all up, and you can just send it over to the other side, and there's your discovery. And for someone like me, who's a sole practitioner, it's a really useful tool to have.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's useful for everyone, but for me especially, it has been.
And just tell me a little bit about where Logical, how you get access to the software, because I know some of the software that's been around for a while has involved sort of quite a complicated setup process and having to learn quite complicated software. How hard have you found it to set it up and get started using it?
Well, that's where Google came in. So I Googled document management software. I might have said, help me. Logical came up, and it's actually based in the US. Mm-hmm. And I'd worked in New York before with something similar. And when I just clicked on it and checked it out, it looked similar to what I'd worked with 10 years ago, although way more sophisticated, colourful, pretty. Just from what I could see. So I just emailed them and said, hi, help. And they got back to me right away, then possibly within minutes, and just called me up and talked me through it. It was probably within a day I had an account. And then with training, they just trained us. Oh, that's right. I had law clerks at the time. They just trained us all online. We had an initial training session that showed us how to use the software. And then when we ran into things that were an issue for us, they just did custom training for us, and it was all part of the package. It was actually really cool. Yeah. And and probably what about cost? Yeah. So it didn't cost anything to get the account. Yeah. And then we just got charged per. Now, what are those things? Are they megabytes, gigabytes, big bytes, little bytes?
Yeah, it's a charge by the amount you need to store and process.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So each month we just get sent a bill. Yeah. I think I recall talking to you about it at the beginning because I wanted to know about, hey, am I going to get ripped off here or not? Mm. I remember running past the gigs to you, and you actually thought it was competitive to good. So, it's... Yeah. For my matter, I think there were close to 100,000 documents in there, and my bill, noting the conversion rate in Australian dollars, was never more than $400 a month.
Yeah, that's very cost efficient. And I think the thing that I've found too is I haven't used this product, but other ones, the user experience has improved a lot from some of the sort of older products. So if you ever saw an e-discovery and you're sort of like, oh, that's all quite complicated. In fact, they've really worked hard to make it quite intuitive and
I'm a step above a techno moron, but not a big step. So, and for me, it was actually fun to use it, probably because of the colours. So I like the fact that all the tags are different colours. But yeah, it was intuitive. I mean, if you can use an iPhone, you can use the software. And the really nice thing is that it had like this little bot, you know, where you typed a question, someone got back to you. So they had someone there 24/7.
Yeah.
This particular software, I gather it's a relatively small company. Like, I think there were maybe like 5 different techies that I spoke to, like we got to know them all.
Yeah.
So yeah, the ease of use was definitely a factor in the success that we had with this litigation. And I should say, so there was one thing, I think the way that the dates were an issue because of American backward dates, but someone spent time with me that night and we sorted it out. So we got things to appear the way they should have appeared. And when I remember when I had to do my first document run, that did my head in a little bit. But again, someone just got on the phone with me in the end, talked me through it, and we got it done. So it's possible. You don't have to love computers or the back end of computers. I love the front end, to be able to navigate the software and to make it work for you. And I assume that, you know, there's other software that does a similar job. It's just, this just literally happened to be the one that popped up for me. And I went online and saw that other people liked it. So I thought, oh, well, you know, finicky New Yorkers, you know, like this software. So probably an easygoing Adelaidean will find it all right too.
But I think it's great that somebody who is running a sole practice with, you know, no team of paralegal. I mean, you said you had a couple of paralegals, but, you know, not a big team on hand, can just manage a discovery of that size and do it.
We were learning. Yeah, so I had, at the time, I had a practice manager and a law clerk, and then I had another law clerk, and all of us were just learning because, you know, we just found ourselves in the middle of a massive dispute, you know, against like Land Court, which is owned by the New Zealand government. We're like, how the hell did this happen? And so we had New Zealand barristers as well over there who had never dealt with this software either. And we were learning, and then we taught them, and we were able to all communicate. And, you know, I was sending them documents with comments on them. They'd get into the document, they'd leave me comments. Even the somewhat older senior barrister that we had, you know, in the end, you know, wasn't completely averse to using it either. So it was fine. But yeah, so we learned. We learned along, you know, the way of doing what we had to do in the matter, and we kept up. You know, and on the other side, we had a massive firm, you know, one of New Zealand's, well, massive, they're in New Zealand, but one of New Zealand's biggest firms on the other side. And they actually had more screw-ups with their document, just like production, than we did. We didn't, we had to point out their problems. So, so it wasn't
so it's the power of a tool that not only does what you need to do, but it's giving you added benefits of being able to collaborate with people who are working in a different country. And you've probably got a better way of, I just like the way that electronic tools enable you to really slice and dice your documents in a way that you couldn't possibly do in paper. It would just be cost prohibitive.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like there's a dedupe tool, for example. So if the documents, you know, are the same, you have the option of just looking at one version of that document, not 10 versions. So you can just, you can cull those out if you want as well. That's right. And you can categorise them. You know, we have them categorised by witnesses. So I mean, by the end, I had, I don't want to say 100 tags, but probably, you know, maybe 50 tags of different kinds, different categories. You know, for every aspect of the evidence, I had different types of tags. I had tags for different witnesses. I had, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly, you know, tags, like literally, you know. So that was good. And the other thing is that I think was really good is that I was sort of getting to before is that we were competitive with a big firm. And when I remember the younger New Zealand barrister came to my office and walked in, he actually went, oh, I'm so sorry. I can't believe what you were doing from here. And I'd love to show you my office, but the fact that it's pastel colours and, you know, quirky chairs might be part of it. But, you know, from one small office, we were running a massive litigation, and he said that it's really good, probably, that I couldn't see the other firm that we were up against. But all of their resources and all of our resources, you know, were fine against each other. And I think in part, it owes a lot to the fact that not only did I have awesome barristers, but I had really, really good software. Yeah,
Yeah.
it made us competitive. It really did level the playing field.
Yeah,
And
that's
like I
amazing.
said, I'm not really, I'm not fantastic with computers. I'm
But-
just your average sole practitioner.
But this is the thing, the right tools are easy enough to use so that you can get that advantage or get that level playing field so that you
Yeah.
can
Totally.
take on this work without having to outsource it and lose control and the cost associated with that. So
Yeah, and it was fun. I actually liked seeing my documents on the screen with pretty little tags on them and all the comments. It was really sad to let it go at the end of the matter.
Well, thank you so much, Jasmina. I think that's really been great to share that with, and I'm delighted that you had so much fun with it, and it did the job for you and your clients when you needed it.
My pleasure, Fiona, anytime.
We hope you enjoyed this session. If you'd like to receive updates about the work of the CLI and ALPMA, please be sure to follow them on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter.